Water is fluidity personified. It can be just as powerful as it is soothing. It can be just as exciting as it is calming. I find it very appropriate and quite honestly very awesome that our bodies are mostly made up of this amazing substance. But it brings a question to mind. If we are made up of the most fluid substance on earth, why are we taught to think and be so rigid? For years, we have been taught that we should follow the same clearly defined paths to success. For years, we've been taught that we should hit certain milestones at certain points in our lives. And if by chance we don't hit those milestones, there's something wrong with us. But I would argue there's absolutely nothing wrong with us. There is something wrong with the way we are taught. Because if you are taught, and I'm having ear trouble here, but if you are taught that you should hit a set of clearly defined milestones at a certain time, that's putting you in a box. And that's not what fluidity is about. So by giving you that set of milestones to reach, you are literally going against everything that you are made up of. We are made of water for a reason, so that we can be fluid. It is okay if you don't hit someone else's definition of success or certain milestones at a certain time, because you should always be discovering new things about yourself. That is the definition of fluidity. We should always be learning new things about ourselves, whether we're 19 years old or whether we're 40 years old, because life is all about discovery. The quote that I base my talk around is one of my favorite quotes, and it comes from the martial artist Bruce Lee. And I love this quote because I believe that it gives us the secret to success in every area of life, and it is also an antidote to rigidity. And the quote is this: empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water. You put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put water into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. Now, first of all, I think that's an amazing quote. Would y'all agree? I think that is incredible. I think that shows a really deep level of thinking and a deep way of looking at life. And forgive me if I didn't expect that deep level of thinking to come from someone who beats people up for a living. But once we get past how cool it sounds, be like water, sure. How do we actually take that and make it something that we can apply to our lives instead of just having something that just sounds good? How do we take that and apply it so that we can be more productive and we can be happier? I think the steps that we have to follow in order to make that happen is that we have to take that quote and dissect it piece by piece, starting with the first thing he said: empty your mind. What does that actually mean? I have found that a large portion of my adult life has been spent taking what I learned in school and what I learned as a child, seeing what I wanted to keep and what I wanted to throw away. And one of the surprises that I've had is that I've thrown away way more than I've kept. So you've got to look at your whole life and figure out what you want to keep and what you want to throw away. What are some things that you should throw away? You can start with other people's definitions of success. You don't need other people's. Why do you need someone else to tell you where you should be in order to validate you? As long as your happiness does not come at the expense of another person, your happiness is the only thing you need to validate you. Your happiness is the universe's way of telling you, hey, you're on the right path. You see that thing that keeps making you happy? Keep doing that, more of that. So you can throw that away. You can throw away outdated traditions that don't serve us anymore. Let's not keep doing it the same way because we've done it that way 100 years. If there's a newer and a better way that serves us better, let's do it that way. So you can throw that away. And then what I think we should do is we should take and think about the biggest, grandest vision for our lives. Don't think about, well, if I lived in another city, or, if I was taller, or if I had more money, or if I had more connections. Throw all of that out the window. If all things were equal and you could live in any city you wanted and have any job you wanted, be wherever you wanted and do whatever you wanted, what would you do? That thing. Let's hold on to that. And then anything that does not line up with that, empty your mind, get rid of it. So that's the first thing. The second thing he said is be formless, shapeless, like water. You put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. Well, what does that actually mean? I think it means when we go into a new situation, you have to be open to all the possibilities of that situation. What you don't want to do is go into a new situation, some new territory, and look at it through the lens of your own limitations. The reason for this is because a lot of times we walk into a place and it's filled with opportunity, but opportunity comes disguised. It doesn't always just look like opportunity. A lot of times they come disguised as something else. And if you are looking through the lens of your own limitations, you won't see the opportunities for what they are. You'll see what they're disguised as: problems, frustration, negativity, and you'll limit yourself. You won't even see the opportunities that are there. But if you're looking through that new lens that comes with emptying your mind and being formless and going into a new situation and opening yourself to a new way of thinking, then you see straight through all the problems and you see the opportunities for what they are. And that leads you to connect creatively with people and solve problems that people are having now. The next thing we have to do, be formless, shapeless like water. Sometimes you have to use both sides of water. Water can flow and water can crash. Now, this is very important because you have to know when to flow and crash. There are times in life that you should get in your car. You should put the cruise control on 55 miles an hour. You should get in the far right lane and you should just drive. Just drive slow. That's it. You may not know exactly how long you have to get to before you get to your exit. That's okay. Just drive slow, just flow. You might see other people on your left going 70 miles an hour, passing you and getting to their destinations faster. That's okay. Just flow. Sometimes we have to do that. But there are other times in life you can't just flow. There are times when you need to walk into a situation. You've got to assess what's going on. You've got to talk to people and find out what are the goals and where are we trying to get to. And you just have to say, stop. We can't keep going like this, guys. We've got to change, and we have to do it now. That's crashing, my friend. That is crashing. You've got to trust your intuition. You've got to trust your gut so that you know when to flow and when to crash. But the other part of that is that you have to really trust that intuition and do not doubt yourself. If you feel like you should just sit there and sit tight and flow for now. But when you decide to crash, act decisively. Don't doubt yourself. Crash. Because the world put you in that situation because it knew that you would think that you should crash there, and the world needs you to make that decision. The world is literally waiting on you to make the decision that you would make if you decide to crash. If you doubt yourself, if you hold back, then you are depriving the world of your greatest gift, and you never know what changes you could make in the world if you decide to crash. So you think of the biggest, grandest vision for yourself. You learn when to flow, you learn when to crash, and you have to let go of some things. Now, in order to reach this biggest, grandest vision for yourself, a lot of times that requires us to grow in areas that we didn't even know we could grow. Now, that hits home for me because when I was learning to empty my mind and be like water, one of the things that I had to do was let go of things that I did not even realize I was holding on to. For example, my whole life, I had one goal, basically from the time I was about 12 or 13 years old, and that is I wanted to be a superstar musician. That was it. Music artist, producer, whatever. I wanted to be a successful musician. And it's great that I had that desire at an early age. That is awesome. The problem is that I also had a foolproof plan of how I was going to get there. Now, I stress to you, foolproof. It is going to work. And that plan was this. I was going to become the best keyboard player that I could possibly become and the best saxophone player that I could possibly become. And then I was going to play in the clubs and somebody was going to see me and say, hey, you look like you need a record deal. And then they were just going to give me a record deal. And then I was going to go into the studio, and my first time ever recording an album, it was going to be the greatest album of all time, and it was going to sell 10 million records. And I was going to win 25 Grammys. Yes, 25 5 Grammys on my first album and break every record, and I was gonna tour the world, and I was gonna have a 50-year career of just hit after hit, and by the time I died, they would study Mozart, they would study Beethoven, and they would study Foster Carson. That was my foolproof plan. So I left my hometown of Fort Valley, Georgia, which I loved, and I moved to the city of Atlanta, Georgia, which I also love. And I started to put my foolproof plan in place. And I got the best keyboards, and I had my saxophone, and I played in clubs. And sometimes we would play from 10 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. And sometimes I wouldn't get home till 3 a.m. And I played in clubs, and I gave it my heart, and I gave it everything I had. And my foolproof plan just didn't work. It just didn't. And I couldn't figure it out, so I played harder, and I played more clubs, and I played with different people. And I didn't get offered to go on tour with anybody, and I didn't get discovered, and I didn't get any record deals. I got, hey, you play real good, pat on the back. And for pay, this is a true story. For pay, I used to get $60 and a box of chicken. That was it. I would be mad if they didn't give me the chicken because I missed a meal that week. That was the whole thing. $60 and a box of chicken. So after a year and a half of playing for $60 and a box of chicken, I started to get burned out. And I realized that there has to be a different way. I've got to try something. But quite honestly, I didn't know what else to try. I mean, there are no books on this. How do you become a successful music artist? You can't go to school for that. So one day I was at work, and I was on Craigslist, and I saw an ad that said that the Atlanta Hawks were looking for an organ player. Now, I had never played at any type of sporting event in my life. But at that point, I said, look, this whole playing in the club's foolproof plan thing isn't working the way I thought it would, and I have to try something. So at that point, I had to empty my mind. I had to let go of what I thought my path was supposed to be and say, hey, this may or may not be my path, but I at least have to try it. I can't see the whole staircase. I can just see the first step, and I at least have to take that first step. So I took it. And as of last night, we just had our home opener, which means that as of last night, I just began my 8th season as the organ player for the Atlanta Hawks. Not only that, but I am now in a position to accomplish every single goal that I set for myself creatively and professionally because I was bold enough to take that first step. This has led to things that I couldn't believe it would lead to. When I was a kid, my favorite magazine was The Source because it talked about all the best rappers. I've been interviewed by The Source. I couldn't believe it. They gave me a shout out on ESPN. I've had a lot of things happening, but I don't want to, I'm not here to list all of those things. I'm just here to simply tell you I had to let go of what I thought my path should be in order to get to everything that I was trying to get to. So I left you with that whole personal story to tell you that I believe everybody in this room has greatness in you. I do not believe that the world pre-selects certain people to be great. I believe that everybody has greatness in you. You just have to find the thing that you are great at. And then you have to give it your all and go after it and discover the greatness within. That is how you connect creatively to people. That is how you solve the problems that we have now. That is how you deal with all the pressures and all the situations that are in the world now, is by looking within. And it really helps if you can empty your mind, if you can let go of other people's expectations and everything you think it should have been, keep the desire and let go, be shapeless, be formless, and be like water. Thank you.